Hello, my name is Abby Heber, and I'm responding to this week's discussion on what is the difference between liberty and freedom. And I was excited about unraveling this one and researching a little bit more because, quite honestly, I could not explain in a scholarly manner what the difference is between liberty and freedom. If you asked me to put one in a sentence, I most likely could use the right one, but digging into the definitions and really understanding them, I can't, I could not succinctly do that. So I do appreciate this assignment very much. And one of the best ways to understand something is to look back at the history of it and in libertas itself, and turning to Greek philosophers such as Aristotle and Cicero, which this module did, and I found that very helpful. And so one of the journal articles that responded to Aristotle and his ideas on what freedom is Moira Walsh's work entitled Aristotle's Conception of Freedom. And so Walsh begins her journal article with a quote from Aristotle's Metaphysics. It says, "That human being is free, we say, who exists for his own sake and not for another's." Walsh breaks down Aristotle's definition in writing that the free man acts not for an end outside himself, but for the sake of his own well-being, and for that of those with whom he is united in a partnership. When this partnership is formed for the sake of a good, of which his own good is constitutive part. To put it plainly, freedom is not merely to do what you want, but it is the freedom to do what you should, and it's the choice to do what you should. This definition of freedom is, from my interpretation, linked to the idea and the cultivation of virtue itself, which Aristotle wrote lengthy works on virtue, and one of those is in his Necromancy and Ethics, and it reads, "Virtues are formed in a man by his doing the action." So it's a habit, virtues are. As writer Will Durant paraphrased, "We are not what we repeatedly do, therefore excellence is not an act, but a habit." If we look at the definition of freedom from Aristotle, we see that true freedom is in making choices that are good for goodness sake, for the goodness of them. And in making these good decisions for the good of the community and for the people in our community, a positive outcome is an action that forms a habit of good character, and that good character results in good moral virtues. Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl wrote in his work, Man's Search for Meaning, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies all our freedom." Beautiful way to summarize some of Aristotle's way of thinking and pulling it into mid-20th century from the eyes of a prisoner who very, very desperately wants to have meaning and good character and make the right choices, no matter where you are. So looking over towards liberty now, the definition is labored over by Cicero, who believes that liberty is the ability to act outside of a cohesive governmental body. So in his work, Cicero, Roman Republicanism, and the Contested Meaning of Libertas, Geoff Kennedy makes pains to untangle the political and ethical understanding of Cicero's approach toward liberty. In his work, he utilizes historian Quentin Skinner's viewpoint on the subject, and Skinner writes these words: "If your freedom is held at the discretion of anyone else, such that you continue to be subject to their will, then you remain a slave. To enjoy liberty, in other words, it is not sufficient to be free from coercion or the threat of it. It is necessary to be free from the possibility of being threatened or coerced." In other words, liberty is the political ability to act outside of a ruling arbitrary body, arbitrary laws. So looking at freedom and liberty through the eyes of these ancient philosophers has helped truly sharpen my understanding of each of their definitions, both liberty and freedom. One of the things that kept scratching in the back of my mind as I was doing this research and trying to push freedom and liberty apart and understand them independently is a quote that actually kind of brings them together, but I found it very moving. A quote by author George McDonald, who not only inspired many of the fantastical stories that C.S. Lewis produced, but a lot of Lewis's theological pursuits. So this quote by George MacDonald reads that free will is not the liberty to do whatever one likes, but the power of doing whatever one sees ought to be done. Even in the very face of otherwise overwhelming impulse, there lies freedom indeed. For me, this quote brings the idea of these two topics, liberty and freedom, together and highlights something that I found truly meaningful in this week's discussion, and that is the act of shaping character and virtue through our actions of freedom and in the liberty that we possess. So that's my response to this week's discussion. I look forward to hearing everyone else's discussions and responding to you guys. So thank you.